from the station that is local for you. NBC4 at 6 starts now.
Another round of spring storms moving into central Ohio tonight, and they're packing a powerful punch. Good evening. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Mike Jackson.
I'm Colleen Marshall. We want to get right over to Storm Team 4 Chief Meteorologist Dave Mazza. He's tracking this weather alert on live Viper radar. Here we go again, huh, Dave?
Yeah, we've had the thunderstorms in parts of Morgan County. We've been watching those. Those are weakening just a little bit, but we've got some stronger thunderstorms that are now starting to make their way into parts of Franklin County as well. You notice them just over on the east side, basically upper Arlington, Grandview Heights. We've got the strongest of these storms, and they are moving off towards the east at about 35 miles an hour. You notice in some of these little markers, these purple spots right here showing the potential of up to pea-sized hail, but near upper Arlington, some of these markers right here showing the potential of 60 to 70 mile an hour wind gusts with some of these thunderstorms that are continuing to push off towards the north and east. Give me 1 second, guys. What did Andres just push through here? We have, okay. Yes, we do have a newly issued tornado warning that is in effect now for Franklin County. That same cell that we were tracking right there. Newly issued tornado warning that is in effect for Franklin County. I'm going to get the latest on this. I'm going to zoom into this cell right here. That would be right over here. That's coming into the city right now. So if you're in the upper Arlington area, if you're near Grandview Heights, that is the same area that is under the effect of this tornado warning, this severe thunderstorm right now that is near the Ohio State University. So basically upper Arlington, just south of where we are. This cell right here is continuing to push to the east at about 35 miles per hour. This has had a history of producing some strong gusty winds, also frequent lightning and hail as well. So if you are in the line of this cell, if you're moving through upper Arlington, Grandview Heights towards the north side of Clintonville, Columbus, you are under this tornado warning, a newly issued tornado warning that is now in effect for Franklin County. This does also include the northwest portion of Fairfield County, and this is until 6:30 this evening. So again, we do have a tornado warning that is in effect if you're in the campus area of Ohio State. If you're in the campus area, if you're in downtown Columbus, Grandview Heights, upper Arlington, this is the area right in this region that is under the tornado warning this evening. So in this area right now, if you're in Bexley, downtown Columbus, you want to head to your safe spot right now. This is going to be the lowest point in the house, or if you have an apartment, you want to get to the lowest point, a place that does not have any outdoor windows, so an interior bathroom, a closet. This is going to be your safe spot this evening. And Ben Gelber is going to be joining us as well this evening. Ben, so far this cell, we've been watching it very closely, moving through parts of Madison County, through parts of Union County as well. And this is starting to show a little bit of rotation. You were just looking at it on radar a few minutes ago.
Yeah, Dave, we just before 6 o'clock, we noticed some rotation starting to develop in the Lincoln Village area, and the National Weather Service caught on to that too. We want to show you the tracker here. The storm is moving about 30 miles per hour, so that'll take it over toward Bexley at 6:10, Whitehall at 6:15, Gahanna 6:18, at least the core of the storm, Reynoldsburg, about 6:25. Now, this storm, Dave, as it started to move east out of Madison County, it looked like we had a couple of cells that may have merged right here. And when that happens, sometimes storms that had not indicated a warning, but you can see there's what we call a little bit of an indent here, a little bit of a notch, and that's where we think there is some rotation. And the National Weather Service saw that at 6. Issuing the warning until 6:30.
If you could switch over to the velocity, put it on now right now and switch over to the velocity scan on that for me, Ben. We can see if we could pick up that rotation right here towards the campus area. So again, where we're looking at right now, we have tornado warnings that are in effect. And if you could stop that and put that on the now, I want to show you exactly where, if you're in the 315 area, if you're near Clintonville right now, this is the area that we're watching very closely. You can see it right now. We have the tornado warning that is in effect until 6:30 this evening. I was just showing you about 2 minutes ago on the top of the broadcast where we are looking at the potential of hail and strong gusty winds in that area. We're looking at a tower camera shot. We're kind of flipping between them on the right side there. But again, if you are in upper Arlington, if you are near campus right now, these are the areas that are under immediate danger. If you're in downtown Columbus, you need to get to the innermost room of the house. You can see right here on radar, you can see the storm winds right there from upper Arlington over towards Grandview Heights and downtown Columbus. And I want to show you that as we're continuing to watch. You see those reds and the greens starting to show up right there. there. And that mix right there is actually showing the inbound and outbound winds kind of twisting together a little bit. Not a great signature showing up quite yet there, but that's why we do have that tornado warning that is in effect. Ben, if we could switch over to that Barron button for a second, I'm going to show you the winds, the hail, and you can see on this is exactly what I was looking at a minute ago. So you notice the purple shadings on here. That is indicating the possibility of 1 to 1.5 inch diameter hail. So that's near downtown Columbus right now, from Grandview over towards Bexley. As you're heading down to the south part of town, that is showing the potential of hail down Parsons Avenue. If you're heading over towards Italian Village, over towards down Main Street, basically. And then, Ben, that red area from Upper Arlington down King Street right there, that's showing severe winds of 58 miles per hour or more. We noticed that feature as it was pushing through the far western portion of the county just a few minutes ago, was indicating some very strong winds. You can see in the camera shot behind us there, that I believe, Andres, if you could let me know which camera, I think that's our backyard camera, correct? That's behind us there. That is our backyard camera, and that is looking at those storms that are coming in. So you notice also from the rain there, you can see that we do have very gusty winds. As this is the Levesque camera, so this is out of this is out of downtown right now, the Levesque camera, and that's looking off towards the west as that storm is inbound right now. So again, if you are checking in with us this evening, there is a tornado warning in effect right now for downtown Columbus. Here is the camera from our backyard looking towards campus, and you cannot see campus at this time. Again, we do have a tornado warning that is in effect for Fairfield. That's northern Fairfield County and also Franklin County until 6:30 this evening. The reason that this storm did pop up, it was showing some indication on radar of the potential of a little bit of a spin with this. Also, you notice that purple shading that's showing up from Upper Arlington over towards Columbus. That is showing anywhere from 1 to 1.5 inch diameter hail. So on this track right here, Ben, we're looking at Linden at about 6:08, Bexley 6:14. Linden, I would say right now, if you are not in your safe spot, you need to get there immediately. Same thing for Bexley, East Columbus, Gahanna, Whitehall, Blacklick. You have a couple of minutes. That's it to get to your safe spot this evening. You might be hearing those sirens going off. I know they'll be going off around the county right now. If you're in the northern part of Franklin County, the threat is not there. It's the southern, basically from Worthington on south, heading over towards the east side of town. And Ben, what do you got?
Yeah, Dave, the sirens are going off all the way up to toward Polaris. Now, what is happening here? There are two cells. And both are quite strong. It's difficult to tell whether both are rotating or not. I'm going to put a quick time lapse on these so you can see the motion, which is off to the southeast at about 35 miles per hour. Now, this is the lapse, and you can see how the storms have moved right across the middle of Franklin County. We've split into two very strong cells, and this one is showing a fairly intense hail core. I'm going to stop the tracker here and put this on a current motion. There's also an indication of some very large hail, maybe 1.5 inches in diameter, and that's over Pickerington. So there are two areas we're tracking, one by Upper Arlington heading over downtown Columbus. But Dave, this one is developing a little bit of a notch in here to the north and east of Pickerington, so that indicates some strong inflow. Not seeing quite the strong signature on the storm in northwestern Franklin County heading into downtown, but both of these are dangerous storms, and that's why the tornado warning includes includes Fairfield County.
And Ben, you look at that storm even off in Madison County as well, just north of London, right there along 70, heading into West Jeff, and that's showing another potential of of large hail as well with that storm as it moves over. If we could switch back over to that single site radar for a second, I want to show you what that looks like outside this evening, because that's really what we're watching, as Ben was mentioning, a couple of these storms. And forgive me if for folks out in Morgan County, you had a strong thunderstorm as well, but right now the immediate threat is that tornado warning that is in effect for Franklin County until 6:30. Ben, can we turn on that warning box if you get a chance as well, so we can show everybody at home what areas are under the warning, because not all of Franklin County is under this. If you're in Dublin, thank you, Ben. If you're in Dublin, Westerville, New Albany, you are not under this warning. This does include downtown Columbus. If you're in downtown Columbus right now, you are right under the gun of when you're going to see the worst of this storm moving in. We've got that other thunderstorm that Ben was just talking about moving near Reynoldsburg right now. You notice that tornado warning box looks like it was just pulled back a little bit for the far western portion of Franklin County has now been removed. It's basically from Clintonville down to near Grove City, not including Grove City, but just to the north of Grove City, where we do have that tornado warning box that extends until 6:30 this evening. This is a Doppler radar indicated tornado. Here is the difficult part right now, as we've been showing you guys for the last 15 minutes or 10 or 15 minutes now, those those cameras outside, when you walk out there, you're just going to see a wall. So if there is something rotating in that wall, you are going to have no chance of seeing it. It is best to get away from the windows and doors to the lowest point of your house if possible. I know a lot of you may be saying, I don't have a basement. Where do I go? You need to go to that innermost room of the house. If it's a bathroom, a closet, somewhere on the lowest level of your home or your apartment. You get down there, you get into that room away from the doors and windows. Again, this is the area right here. Ben, if we could zoom really close into here, downtown Columbus, and show people where the two areas are that we're watching very closely right now. One of them, obviously, just north of downtown. So if you're near campus, Grandview over towards downtown Columbus, we were showing you the cameras just a minute ago, and you just saw that wall of rain and wind coming in. You can see the heaviest of this rain starting to make its way right into Grandview right now. We're hearing it outside of our building. If you're hearing those tornado sirens where you live, especially if you're basically a line from Hilliard over towards the airport and south, you want to take caution right now because this cell is continuing to push off towards the east at about 35 miles an hour. And Ben, you are also watching the cell that was to the east part of town, just south of Blacklick right there near Reynoldsburg. Right. And this also has the potential of, at minimum, having some very strong gusty winds.
Yeah, and Dave, I think this is why they issued the tornado warning also for a portion of Fairfield County until 6:30. If you're just joining us, Franklin and Fairfield counties have a tornado warnings. Sometimes when we call them a right splitting cell or a cell that splits off to the right of the main storm, this develops a little bit of rotation. Not seeing any clear, what we call a hook-shaped echo indicating a strong rotation, but I'm going to change the parameters on this a couple of different ways. So we look for any indication of rotation. Now here we're seeing the very large hail in the hail core, the purple or the lavender. It is probably upwards of 1.5 inches in diameter in the vicinity of Bussey Road and Allen Road, maybe 2 inches in diameter between Allen Road and Hill Road. And that again is in Pickerington. That's the eastern cell. The other thing that's obvious here to me, though, is again, you can see this notch, and that indicates there's some strong inflow, and that may be wrapping around the storm. So that can create rotation aloft. It doesn't necessarily mean anything's going to reach the ground, but that's more than enough to trigger the sirens and a tornado warning. So let me back this out a little bit. You can see there is some distance here of about 10 miles between these two storms. I'm going to recenter radar, and the track is off to the east on both of these. We'll put a tracker on for the core of the storm, not the entire storm. The core of the storm is moving off to the east at about 27 miles per hour, and these storms both remain very strong. We'll see if the National Weather Service holds on to the tornado warning. Here's another hail core indicating another 2-inch diameter hail potential. And let me put a query on that, and others will ask radar to tell us. Yes. Dave, incredible. Potentially hail up to 3 inches in diameter. So now we're getting larger than golf ball size.
Yeah, and this is some of the, I mean, this part of the storm didn't really get, this part of the county in Madison County really didn't get the strongest of the storms earlier today. We did have some reports of 1 inch to 1.5 inch diameter hail earlier near Plain City, but you notice these 3 different areas right now that are showing up the potential, one near Reynoldsburg down to Canal Winchester, also one moving through downtown Columbus right now. You can see this one down 256 right here towards Pickerington, just off towards the south and east of Pickerington. We've got our Storm Team 4 mobile weather lab powered by the Waterworks and the camera to the right there. And things are looking a little bit quieter here right now. But Ben, if we could zoom out just a little bit and bring back up the single site radar for a second, because I wanted to indicate to folks, if you're at home in Franklin County, especially the southern part of Franklin County, in between the storm that's near Pickerington right now and the storm that's making its way through downtown, there is a little bit of a gap between those. So if we could zoom in, Ben, to the southern part of Franklin County, and if you, thank you, that's perfect right there. If you're in Galloway, for instance, you're going to see those strong storms starting to come through. Grove City, it still seems quiet right now, relatively. Same thing in Obetz, but you notice these storms back all the way down 70 towards West Jeff, and those storms, even though those storms don't look as strong, those storms do have the potential that they're heading right down 40 here of producing very strong gusty winds and also some hail with them as well. But these are the storms that we're watching very closely near Upper Arlington and Grandview Heights. Those are going to continue to push off towards the east at about 35 miles an hour, and as they do so, we are going to continue to see those storms moving right into downtown. So folks, if you're watching online possibly right now and you're heading out to the Clippers game, I think the game was supposed to start in about 15-20 minutes. You want to head to those bathrooms. You want to head to the safe spots at the stadium. If you're out at the game this evening, if you're out at a soccer game, baseball, whatever, you need to head indoors. You need to get away from this because not only are these going to produce very strong gusty winds, frequent lightning, but this is also the reason we have the tornado warning. We've been seeing radar indicated rotation with this storm as it moved just south of where we're at near Clintonville and just over campus, and then it's moving right in towards downtown. And again, right down 70 by Reynoldsburg, we've got additional thunderstorms that are very strong. Ben, if we could turn on the tornado warning box for a second so we could show folks again the areas that are under this tornado warning that extends until 6:30 this evening. And if you could move the map up a little bit so we can get this, we got the bar right here, and I want to make sure that people can see underneath the bar. But again, if you are in Columbus, downtown Columbus, if you're over towards Obetz, towards Groveport, you need to take caution right now. You've still got about 8 to 9 minutes until this storm eventually makes its way, the worst part of it, in, which means you have plenty of time to get to that safe spot right now and get down there. Again, the tornado warning does extend until 6:30 this evening. This does include parts of Franklin County, also the northern part of Fairfield County as well. The storm is generally pushing to the east at about 35 miles an hour, but I have noticed, and Ben, have you seen the same thing? They're kind of pulling a little bit south of due east, meaning they're not on a straight trajectory to the east. They're more kind of just cutting a little bit to the south. So if you're in Columbus over towards Groveport and Pickerington, that's where that worst part of the storm is going to be. And then down towards Canal Winchester. And eventually, if you're in Pickerington towards Baltimore, not in the warning box as of right now, but strong gusty winds will definitely be possible. And then the second line of storms from Galloway over towards Grove City. Like I said, Ben, this is going to be an area that folks should not fall asleep on, because that is still going to have the potential of producing very strong gusty winds as well as that storm pushes off towards the east at about 35 miles per hour.
And Dave, several things are happening here. Number one, when you have multiple cells, the rain begins to cool the air, and that takes away some of the instability that is causing the storms to pulse up, and that forces the action a little bit to the south where it hasn't rained yet. And it looks like the cell moving through Upper Arlington into downtown Columbus has weakened considerably compared to just 10 minutes ago. But the storm that's a little bit more out in the open toward Millersport and Pataskala, also a little bit weaker. And then we watch to the west, and you can see that there are several strong storms developing to the south of London and Circleville. So these situations evolve very rapidly, where we see maybe one storm weaken and another storm gets stronger. One builds off at the expense of another. But the point is, as long as we have the tornado warning, as long as the Weather Service sees rotation or the potential for rotation, and that is until 6:30. The tornado warning remains in effect, even though radar is looking a little bit better than it did a few minutes ago when we had very strong rotation indicated in the vicinity of Lincoln Village at about 5:59 when I was looking at radar, and then about a minute later the National Weather Service issued that tornado warning. So we've seen this storm which is now moving over downtown Columbus. Right in here, there was some very powerful rotation aloft. It is pushing off to the east-southeast at about 30 miles an hour. But Dave, it looks like, and I've been checking the storm reports, we don't have any confirmation of anything that touched down or any wind damage, but of course that sometimes comes in a little bit later.
But again, that area you were just talking about with the rotation earlier, that's near Groveport right now. So that part does look like it's moving right down towards Groveport this evening. We've also, that's again where we've got that tornado warning still in effect. We don't have it in effect for Grove City, but I'm sure you are experiencing very gusty winds right now in Grove City. Also the possibility of pea to penny sized hail in that area. But if you're in Groveport, if you're in Reynoldsburg, Canal Winchester, Pickerington, Bexley, Whitehall, you need to be in your safe spot right now. We tell people all the time, you want to get to that innermost room of the house. You do not want to look at this. One of the things I've noticed from our cameras earlier is there is just blinding rain out ahead of this. So you're not going to see anything. And when it hits, it's just going to hit, and the winds are really going to pick up. And if we do get some of this hail, like we have been showing, if we could turn that Barron button back on to investigate in on this, you will notice that if we get hail that's the size that this is indicating at about a $50 sized hail, push that at 60, 70 miles an hour, and that could go through a window. So you do not want to be near a window or a door. You want to be into that innermost room of the house. Ben's been outlining this very closely, basically down 256 right over here towards Pickerington. That over towards Baltimore has been the area that we've been watching for hail. You notice another little core starting to develop near downtown Columbus. Not a ton of lightning with this right now. We've heard a couple of rumbles out there, but again, the tornado warning is going to continue for at least basically from everyone from downtown Columbus and off towards the east. If you're north right now up by Upper Arlington, you are now removed from the tornado warning. That still extends for another 12 minutes or so for basically the southeast part of Franklin County, also the very northern fringe of Fairfield County as well. So that does include Canal Winchester. And I would say for folks in Obetz, Groveport, Canal Winchester, down towards Carroll, Pickerington, Baltimore, you need to be on the lookout now for strong gusty winds at a minimum and hail of 1 inch diameter or larger. Like Ben said, though, if you notice, as we go back to the radar for a second here, Ben, you'll notice these cell cells have shown a little bit of a sign of weakening as they've moved across the county, but I'm still a little bit concerned with this part of the cell right here, the southern flank, the southeast part right here, as that continues off towards Groveport in the next minute or two. So if you're in Groveport, you need to take cover right now. Grove City, you're seeing the strongest of those storms moving through. Those will be into Commercial Point with some gusty winds. But Ben, down to the south in Fayette County, you were showing those storms, the stuff to the west and southwest right now. Excuse me.
Yeah,
right
Dave.
now, those are encountering 90-degree temperatures that we had earlier today. So there was plenty of fuel for these thunderstorms as this boundary continues to sag to the south.
Yeah, these storms remain quite strong, Dave, and I wouldn't be surprised. We don't have any new warnings there. I've got the warnings turned on, and so far the tornado warning, as you said, has been scaled back to the eastern part of the county. I want to point out another feature here. We've been analyzing these storms. We look for these little kinks or twists, and this indicates again that the storm, while it probably has weaker rotation, that this is not a normal configuration. When we start to see sometimes we talk about a hook echo. This is a partial hook echo in here, and that indicates again where you have very strong winds which are wrapping around this storm down toward Groveport, and that gets funneled in this area right here. So that's probably where at the very least the strongest winds are. I'm going to put on a velocity indicator too, which gives us another way of looking at the storm. And let me clear this off for you very quickly. We sometimes see when the colors come together, and I'm going to try another version of that. And you can Dave, you can see here the spikes. This is exactly.
It's been weak. It's been weak. But
very weak rotation.
It's been showing up. And again, you have to remember the radar is sampling what's above the ground at these locations as well. So that's why when we talk about Doppler radar indicated tornadoes, it does not mean that something is actually on the ground, but there is definitely that risk. And that's why the warning is out. That warning does continue for our area in Franklin County, Fairfield County, the northern part of Fairfield County until 6:30 tonight for this tornado warning. This cell has had a history of producing very heavy rainfall, not a lot of lightning. I've noticed lightning strikes are down a little bit. We're at about 14 in this box, this entire box here, and some of that's pushing off towards Perry County right now. We've still got strong thunderstorms from Gahanna moving in towards Reynoldsburg, and I think at minimum, Ben, we are going to see some very strong gusty winds down towards Groveport this evening. But again, I can't stress this enough. You do not want to go outside and look at this because, again, we are showing the potential of also some 1-inch diameter hail. So that's about quarter-sized hail. And that hurts, that's dangerous, and it's getting blown by winds that could be in excess of 60 miles an hour as this storm pushes out of the county. Now, Ben, if we can move out just a little bit, I want to keep the warning on, the tornado warning on here, but I want to show a couple of other areas that we are watching very closely because Ben and I have been noticing the tornado warning, it looks like, is going to expire for Franklin County as well, Ben. This is what it looks like outside right now. I'm going to see if our producer, Andres, could let me know where they're at. They're over by Easton, it looks like. They're on the Storm Team 4 mobile weather lab powered by the Waterworks. They're over by Easton right now on the east side of town. You notice traffic obviously heavy. It's rush hour right now, and it's storming, very windy. The sirens are going off outside with this tornado warning. But the worst of it is south of where the Storm Team 4 mobile weather lab is at this time. So, Ben, that is a little bit of good news that it's starting to exit out part of the county. The tornado warning for Franklin County and northwestern Fairfield counties will be allowed to expire in about the next 7 minutes now as that storm is starting to weaken. So that is a bit of good news. But this is something that I stress still. This thunderstorm has had a history of producing hail. Strong gusty winds with it. So even if it is not tornadic anymore, if that is allowed to expire, you're still going to see very gusty winds. So if you're in Darbydale, 632 with this next cell that Ben's tracking right here, Galloway, 633, Harrisburg, 635, Orient, 637. Some of these spots didn't get the rain earlier, so temperatures still really warm, upper 80s in that spot. And then we've got another cell down in the southern part of Madison County as well. And most of these are pushing off towards the east-southeast at about 35 to 40 miles an hour. So that's in Midway at 620. Mount Sterling at 641, Commercial Point 657, Asheville 706, and Lithopolis at 717. Ben, if we could switch that back over to the radar for a second, and we'll kind of highlight a couple of the other areas that we've got with very strong thunderstorms. But again, tornado warning is still in effect for about another 5 minutes for the southern part of Franklin County. This is going to be making its way into Fairfield County shortly. And even if the tornado warning or thunderstorm warning is not extended into Fairfield County and Perry counties, this is still a cell that we're going to have to watch very closely. And Ben, you notice these little pulses of storms like the one near Buckeye Lake south of Newark. These are strong thunderstorms still this evening.
Yeah, and Dave, now that since this storm has had a history of spinning rather strongly We have to watch. Sometimes these storms interact, and we're going to have to watch the storm that triggered the tornado warning for Fairfield County, which is now over Millersport, heading into Buckeye Lake. Not seeing any rotation signatures, but certainly seeing a very powerful storm, while the storm that blew through downtown Columbus here in the past 5 or 10 minutes is heading into Pickerington. That has weakened quite a bit, but any of these storms could pick up in intensity as they feed off warmer air to the south of I-70.
Okay, and our Rob Sneed is in the Storm Team 4 mobile weather lab powered by the Waterworks, and Rob is heading over towards the Reynoldsburg area. That on radar right now is an area that is seeing some of the worst of this storm starting to push through. I want to head out to Rob, and Rob, what does it seem like? Obviously, you can probably hear the sirens this evening. What is it like out there? Are the winds real bad, or is the rain real bad, or is it getting a little bit better currently?
Well, it looks as though the rain has been pretty steady at the moment. I mean, the winds, as far as the winds, you can definitely feel them kind of move our vehicle just a little bit, but nothing too heavy, nothing too strong. We are headed towards Reynoldsburg right now, and as you can see, traffic is moving relatively slow. It has slowed down significantly since about 15 minutes ago. Obviously, they're trying to drive with caution to make sure that they're getting to their destination safely and on time, but also safe, watching the distance between them, because as you can see right now, look at the brake lights in front of us. People are braking sporadically. We're driving, braking, sporadically driving. I mean, that's what you're going to see in situations like this. But we're going to go ahead and toss it back to you guys.
Yeah, just be safe out there this evening. Obviously, you guys are behind the storm right now. They're about in this area, starting to head in towards the storm on the back side of it right now. The worst part of the storm appears still to be from Reynoldsburg down towards Groveport. And this is pushing off towards the south, east-southeast, I should say, at about 35 miles an hour. So, Ben, if we can get a track on that and kind of give folks in the line of this storm a heads up of what's going on. Again, the tornado warning is set to expire in about 4 minutes or so. The Weather Service has indicated that because this is starting to weaken, they're going to let this storm expire, the tornado warning that is expire. It still means that it is still a dangerous storm, could produce winds in excess of 50 miles an hour, also some hail and some blinding rain out there. So for folks in Reynoldsburg, the storm is right on your doorstep, obviously, right now. Canal, you've got about 3 minutes. Pickerington at about 6:35 this evening, down towards Etna at 6:41, over towards Carroll, 6:44, Baltimore, 6:54. So you get about 29 minutes in Baltimore. Millersport, another round of storms heading over Buckeye Lake right around 7 o'clock this evening. So it is going to continue. We're going to continue to see showers, thunderstorms, some of which could produce very strong gusty winds, also hail. We have had reports today of hail reports of 1 to 1.5 inch diameter hail, also some smaller stuff as well. But the more severe, the dangerous hail, that's what we've been watching. So this storm right here that we're tracking over towards Thornville at 6:33, another storm moving over Buckeye Lake right now, Mount Perry 6:59, and then over towards Dillon Falls at about 7:17, and Crooksville at 7:17 as well over in Perry County. So Ben, if we can move back a little bit, I want to look at all of the storms that we've got, because we still have some strong storms off in Morgan County as well, and then some stronger storms down to the south. These are just the ones that we've got the warning for. Again, this is moving over Franklin County, a very populated area. You're talking about almost 1 million people in the metro. You still cut this out, about 2/3 of 1 million people in the line of this storm that did produce some very strong gusty winds and very heavy rainfall. We've also got some strong thunderstorms that are moving out of Morgan County right now, but if you're in northern Fairfield, Perry County, southern Licking County, you need to keep a heads up for these storms. Keep us obviously handy, but your Storm Team 4 weather app handy as well if you're going to be out and about over the next couple of hours. And then down the road over towards parts of Fayette County, southern Madison County, you notice we've got a couple of these stronger thunderstorms that are moving to the north of Jeffersonville right now, and should be crossing I-71 over towards Orient and Harrisburg pretty soon. And then additional thunderstorms down in central Fayette County by Washington Courthouse. And this line right here will be making its way into Circleville by about 6:45. Kingston 6:51 tonight. Amanda at 7:14. Laurelville at 7:16. And then a second line of the southern part of this line of storms will be over towards, let's say, South Bloomingville in the Hocking Hills at 7:21. So I want to go back up to Franklin County for a second here. And again, we're looking at an ODOT camera behind me there of the roads. They are starting to improve. This is 33 and 270 right now on the southeast side, and the roads are starting to a little bit improve in spots. This is going to be a spot right down to the bottom there that's going to get a little bit worse as those heavy rain showers and gusty winds are going to be blowing through in the next few minutes. But you notice downtown Columbus getting a little bit better right now. We've still got that tornado warning that is in effect until 6:30 tonight, so for about another minute or so for the city of Columbus, also for Reynoldsburg, Groveport, and Canal Winchester. Now, Ben, if you're not in the line of these storms, if you're in Pickerington, which isn't technically under the tornado warning, you're still going to see those winds. You're still going to have the possibility of some of that small hail as well.
Yeah, and Dave, the storm was very strong as it came through Reynoldsburg and Groveport. And while the storm may not necessarily intensify, 50-mile-per-hour winds are certainly possible. Damaging winds can knock down trees and power lines. So that's something we have to be very careful of. I'm going to stop the radar here and switch sources so we can see and essentially query the system again. And if you notice, we still are showing a 1-inch hail purple core near Groveport and a 1-inch hail core north of Pickerington. Not seeing any unusually strong winds, but hail will continue to be a feature. I'm going to slide this over because the other area, Dave, and it shows you these storms continue to pulse up as one weakens, another gets stronger. 1.5-inch hail by Galloway and south of West Jefferson. So any of these storms can produce hail and 50 to 60-mile-per-hour winds.
Yeah, and the key with that is obviously the severe criteria, whether it's a technicality basically. But again, this is still going to be an area that Ben's been highlighting this very closely because on the backside of some of these strong areas of thunderstorms that we have had that can produce some of those strong gusty winds, those are going to continue to push off through the southern part of the county, also through southern parts of Fairfield County as well. So as we are now at 6:30 this evening, that tornado warning box should be popping off in a second here for Franklin County. That tornado warning has now been expired for Franklin County, but this is still going to be a strong storm. It's weakening a little bit as it's pushing into northern parts of Fairfield County and Licking County. Ben, I still think this looks like a pretty strong storm here. So again, if we continue to kind of push off towards the east, if you're heading over towards Buckeye Lake, or if you have to do some travel along 70, the best advice would be to wait on that this evening until all of this activity pushes off towards the east. Not a ton of lightning with these storms, but these storms right here along the Madison-Fayette County line, those storms have a good amount of lightning, and those are going to continue to push into parts of Pickaway County this evening, crossing over US 23 here in about an hour. So at about 7:30, that line of storms should be crossing over 23. We've also got this line down in Ross, northern Ross, southern Pickaway County. That's going to continue to push across US 23 in about the next 15 to 20 minutes. Could have some gusty winds, also the hail potential as well. But you notice that tornado warning box is now gone. That is a little bit of good news. But again, we're still tracking the strong thunderstorms moving out of southern